Good afternoon, everyone. Today's event is brought to you by Nonotuck's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee. As a part of our celebration for Autism Acceptance Month, we will be watching and discussing what it is really like to have autism, a TED Talk by Ethan Lassey. In this talk, Ethan challenges common stereotypes about autism, such as the belief that autistic people are emotionless, socially awkward, or in need of a cure. Autism is not a disease. It's just another way of thinking, says Lassey. Offering a glimpse into how he experiences the world, Lassey breaks down misconceptions, explains common behaviors like stemming and masking, and advocates for a more inclusive understanding of the autism spectrum. So today, before we start the video, we will take a poll question. So when you guys see it pop up on your screen, you can pick which answer resonates with you both, and then we will begin the video. And after that, we will go into a few discussion questions. I will like to remind you that this is a safe space, and we always are respectful to each other. If you don't feel comfortable talking on screen, we also have the chat feature as well, okay? Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Josh. So we will open up the floor to discussion. And the first question is, what part of the video or talk resonated most with you? And maybe you want to share why. Gretchen?
I loved that he pointed out that they just think differently. Like, I think if we could harness being able to, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, autism people that they usually have, or people that are diagnosed with autism, they have excellent retention, they have excellent math skills. Like, there's so much potential to tap into that those skills I don't have as a neurotypical person. And like they just have so much to offer. I think that as long as we could figure out how to communicate in an effective way that isn't frustrating for a neurotypical and not frustrating for the person that's diagnosed with autism, I think the world could be advanced so much.
Thank you, Gretchen. Thomas?
Hello, thank you, and thanks for having this session. Great speak. I really like the part where he talked about drawing a comparison between an Xbox and a PlayStation. That analogy, and then further on going about, if you put an Xbox game in a PlayStation, it won't work. And, that really drew a good analogy for me of, autism and what he was really trying to get across. So that was one of my takeaways.
Thomas. Mary Mar?
Hi, so I'm gonna agree with Tom about the analogy with the PlayStation and Xbox. I really liked that analogy, and where he was trying to convey communication styles is different. And I liked how, I guess I never really sat to think like how people say like autism is a disease, and him saying like not a disease. And I thought, I don't know, that was just more powerful to coming
Thank you
from.
for sharing. Sherry?
Hi. So, I started working with individuals that have autism spectrum disorders when I was 12 years old as a volunteer, and actually had more than a 30-year career in the school system working with kids, mostly with spectrum disorders. So I almost felt proud watching that and seeing him speak up. I'm almost like tearful over it. Just seeing him speak up for himself like that, and just talk about how everyone with autism is so different too. I have 30 years of experience of that, everyone everyone has their own talent in different ways in this world, and it's no different for people that have a spectrum disorder. And if people are treated the same way everyone else is treated in the world, with respect and dignity, and like what we try to do here at Nonotuck, they can go a long way in this world, like with that support, with the team. But it was just amazing to see him speak that way. And I'm sorry I feel emotional about it, but it was great for me to see a TED Talk of someone with autism speaking about autism instead of someone that's read 1,000 books about it.
Thank you, Sherry. Justice?
Yeah, the part that really resonated with me, that quote he had about the things operating on a spectrum, and it seems to me like so many biases and things we hold against people come from viewing the human condition as a binary, as it's either A or B, and then seeing that it, is instead this wide swath of people that, yeah, I remember hearing a quote a long time ago, which was like, nature doesn't do binaries. It only it allows for a wide swath. And I found that really impactful.
Thank you. George?
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. My first thought was, and it got even stronger as the TED Talk went on, is that I think this video should be sent to RFK, who just has the most oppressive and misdirected opinions on autism that could be understood. And here he is at the sort of the top of the heap in the government for Health and Human Services. He has no clue about what autism is. And this gentleman could certainly school RFK on this.
Thank you, George. Next is Michelle.
Hi, yes. Good afternoon. Thank you for having this. What hit me, well, everything that people are saying, I agree, but what hit me was when he said it, why are we treating this like an autism spectrum disorder when it's really a human spectrum? Like, we're on the human spectrum. We're all human, and we all are different on the spectrum of humanity. That's exactly what it is. It's not that it's a disorder or anything like that. We can say the same thing about people on the spectrum disorder that we can about humanity. So I think that just hit me like, you're right. We're all just human, and we all have our different works, our different abilities, and it shouldn't be called autism spectrum disorder. It should be like humanity. It's part of humanity. And I thought that was amazing. That really hit me.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else? Christine typed in the chat, accept and adapt for each other. So thank you, Christine, for sharing. Josh?
Yeah, our next question is, how did the talk change or deepen your understanding of autism? And
I can go
I guess,
first.
oh,
Go ahead, Josh. No, go.
I would just say that I think that for me, the video game analogy, I think everything I understood previous to watching this talk, but the video game analogy really drove it home to me. And not being a gamer, it still resonated with me quite a bit in terms of one thing being the same but different.
Josh, I actually was going to say the same thing. I think the video game comparison kind of makes you realize, okay, it gives you something to think about. There are a lot of misconceptions about people who have autism, and the spectrum is so wide. I think initially we always want to put people in a box. And he kind of explained, like, it's really not necessary. We are really just people, and everybody's different, and when he talked about masking, I think that we can all that resonates with all of us as well, because at some point, it doesn't matter your gender, your race, your religion, your disability, at some point, we all had to mask in some way. So very, very good TED Talk. If anybody else would like to share. I will go back to the survey because I do see that people's understanding of autism, we were 50% at somewhat. So the people who are neutral or limited, do you guys feel like this has deepened your understanding in autism in any way? Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Um, did anybody feel connected to the person or the gentleman in the video? And if so, why or why not? Mary Mar.
I think he did a really good job I presenting, and he did a good job in, like, I don't know, at least speaking for myself, I can like feel his emotion on the subject, and I really liked how he brought up his family and how his family dynamic, um it's basically like half of them have autism and half of them don't, and he talked about how they have to communicate different. And I think that would be my biggest question, is like, there's so many different ways to communicate with someone that has autism, and trying to find the right way to effectively communicate and learn their signs and triggers, I guess would be like more what I would like to learn and feel stronger in and confident in. I guess he did a really good job. I liked his TED Talk.
Thank you. Anyone else? Josh?
I wouldn't say I necessarily felt connected with him, but that's not in a bad way. I more just sort of felt admiration for his courage to sort of speak this fundamental truth that you could tell meant so much to him. It was affecting to watch, and I had just had a great admiration for him being able to do that so openly.
Josh. Sherry?
So I wear a fidget ring that I spin all the time. So I really connected when he was talking about like masking his fidgets, like doing smaller things and things like that. But everybody has a fidget. You might bounce your leg or snap your fingers, or everybody has a little bit of a fidget. My dad bounces his leg. He has no autism in his world, but spectrum disorder in his world. But, I think we all do things like that.
I do for sure. So I get it. Janet?
Hi, thank you. I just want to second what Josh said. I said I just had a great deal of admiration for him, and it just, really came through that his courage, I think it took for him kind of to stand up and do that. But I also really wanted to say his sense of humor, I thought, was really outstanding throughout. I mean, he had this subtle sense of humor, but I love the part when he's looking in the mirror and he comments on, that humanness of like, and a guy with great hair, I thought that was awesome, because it just, again, it's like, just that level playing field, like, back to that human spectrum, we all have that some sense of vanity, and so do people with autism, right? Being able to look in the mirror and say, I don't see someone who's autistic, I see a guy who's got great hair. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Thank you. Anyone else before we move on? Sindel?
Yes, I just want to add that it's to admire for him to be able to do that, to get up there, talk about, everything he went through, and also the support from the family. It's not hard. Some kids with autism don't talk until they're 4 or 5 years old. So it's a long process. That's something like maybe some of us can go talk in public, done. For them, it's years of support of everyone. And I think we should talk more about autism, inclusion, talk to everyone about autism, to respect, to understand, since they're very small in school. I think we at home should also educate everyone, our children, to respect, to understand, to don't make fun of people because they struggle. They struggle to get to the point they are. And not only for the kids, but for the moms. I have friends with kids with autism. They struggle. It's not easy. And I think we all need to support people like that and talk more, educate people about autism.
Thank you, Sindel. Josh, would you like to move on to the next question?
Yeah. How would society change if we viewed autism and other neurodivergences as part of a natural spectrum, like the speaker talked about? And I
think
guess I
yes.
can start. You and me again.
Don't do that.
You go first this time.
I was just gonna say, I think that the more people are educated, the less afraid they are. I think at some point people are afraid of what's different or what they don't understand. So the more we get it out there, the more people are exposed, then I think that people's thoughts surrounding it would change, a little bit more. And then people would be able to advocate for people more and stand up when they see people, with autism being mistreated or et cetera.
Yeah, I think I would just add to that and say that we could just erase the stigma and function in a way where it doesn't have to be different. That we can see that there is a wide array of characteristics of a human being, and it doesn't have to be viewed as a disorder or even different. Because I mean, it's there is just like we're a diverse people. There's so many things that are unique to each person that it's hard to it's sad to see something like autism be sort of stigmatized, you know when we are all so different.
Agreed.
Jessica?
Hi. I have one of my best friends from college. Her son is on the spectrum, and you wouldn't know it talking to him, but I think like videos like this TED Talk, or we've watched Love on the Spectrum on Netflix. I don't know if anybody's watched that, but it's a great show. Stuff like that, it just makes, I think, people realize like they're just people. Like he said, they just, think differently. It's more things like this were taught to kids younger, maybe it wouldn't be as, oh, they're different kind of attitude.
Thank you, Jessica. Anyone else? My thoughts on it as well, Jessica. I just want to piggyback off what you're saying is I think the younger generation, they're going to be with it. It's the older generation. I think that it still kind of has that stereotype and stigma behind it. But this new generation and the way that these kids are growing up and how they are, I just feel like it's going to be so much different. And like you said, there's even a reality TV show on Netflix now, Love on the Spectrum, which we had a discussion at one of our staff meetings a couple weeks ago or last week, and there were mixed reviews behind it. I haven't watched it yet, but I do think that equal opportunity for everyone. You know what I mean? So some people thought that they were being exploited, but it's no. I mean, why can't they have a reality TV show too? Because quote unquote normal people have reality TV shows and they act however, depending on the show, whether it's like The Bachelor or it's some crazy show where they're fighting each other. So I do agree with what you're saying. Joyce?
Thank you for the TED.
what I would think from what I have seen, if parents or if caregivers would join the CPAC meetings in school, because I have realized that I am part of the parents who attend, but some parents do not want anything to do with meetings that have people who have autism or any other kind of considered disability. But if people are open-minded to joining CPAC meetings, they have them at libraries, they have them at schools, so that there's a lot of parents can, mostly parents can become more of the people who can tell other parents and other parents and other parents about autism, that it will reduce the stigmatization, the kind of like how people look at the people who are on the spectrum or judging them. If we all get included in attending some of these meetings and getting to know about autism and making it the norm, it will help people to change their perspective, to look at it as something that is, these people are just as human as all of us are, as we're all as human as we all are, instead of just maybe stigmatizing or looking at them as different from anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. That kind of leads us into our next question. What are some ways we can make our communities more inclusive for people who have autism? Sindel?
I think for small children, try to interact with the kids more in school. Like have a class that all the kids, can all interact together. And it's sad that I see some parents trying to pull the kids away with kids with autism because they don't have the knowledge that it's not contagious. It's not a contagious disease. It's like more, we need to educate. The smaller the kids they will understand more. Try to, as a mom, I talk to Bella. She interacts with kids with autism. I tell her, and I talk to her, try to say thank you with sign language so she can learn how to interact with other kids. I think that has to come from home too. And the smallest they are, you teach them. As they keep getting older, they'll understand more.
You, Sindel. That's a great point. I know in the Springfield school systems, they start the children young and they're all included in the classroom together. So it's children with autism, children with different type of disabilities, and they're not just sending them in a classroom by themselves, essentially. So it's more integration, but that's a great idea. Thank you, Sindel. Angela?
I think possibly maybe creating more sensory friendly environments. I know that a lot of our local sports teams, like the Worcester Railers, when they play at the DCU Center, they have a sensory friendly night where they don't, shine all the bright lights on, and they don't blast music and loud sounds over the jumbotron. So I think maybe creating more sensory friendly environments to help people feel comfortable in the spaces that we have.
Thank you, Angela. Anybody else? George.
I think this is a great question, and a great question is because we're actually as an organization, we're taking a deep dive into PBS, and over the course of the next couple of months, we'll all be well trained in what PBS means for the people we provide services to, and what your sort of role is going to be within the whole framework of PBS, which is not unlike what the sort of the mission, and you'll see, mission of the organization is. And that is to, as best we can, is to find freely given relationships for the people that we provide services to. Freely given relationships being those that aren't paid relationships, but that are relationships where, not unlike ours, our best relationships, where we like to hang out with people that have similar interests that we like. but it's often that people with autism and other types of disabilities sort of aren't given the opportunities to meet other people and to be friends and associates and on different levels of relationships with, from intimacy to, the person behind the counter at your local coffee shop. So inclusion is a really an important aspect of what we do. And when we talk about inclusion, we're not talking about we're talking about being of the community as opposed to just being in the community. Of the community is where you're involved with your neighbors and your community and clubs and different aspects of real life. And so inclusion is a critical part of the jobs we all do here. And we're going to be really finding out more about what that means over the next several months.
Thank you, George. Michelle?
Hi again. Thank you, George. I agree. And I actually was going to say something on the same idea of inclusion, because I have a friend whose name is Sam, who's probably, I don't know, extremely tall. He stands out anyways because he's so tall. But bringing my friend Sam, who's nonverbal, who is a little vocal, can be loud, just bringing him to McDonald's, to Walmart, to the movies, or to Dollar Tree and all these places, bringing him to into the community so he can meet and be with people, and they can see, so they're not afraid. You know what I mean? Like, they just look, they smile, they help if they can. And fortunately, I haven't had the what other people have had, that people run away and things like that. They, stare or anything like that. I've had young people come over, young kids to come over and accept him, and try to talk to him and find things for him, and sit next to him at McDonald's and things like that. So I think, yes, inclusion is very important, and bringing him out into the community, and so he knows what he likes and what he doesn't like, and what he can do, and things he can't do. So yes, I think that's great, George. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thomas?
Thank you. Just want to add quickly, on this line of communities and adding more things that are inclusive to folks on the autism spectrum. I just read an article that Gillette Stadium partnered with this agency, and they have a new sensory room and a certification as a sensory inclusive stadium. So if you go there and watch a game, or you're going there for any type of event starting in September, these sensory room are available to people with those needs if they just want to take a break and those type of things. So I think more of those type of things, the better.
Thank you for sharing that, Thomas. That's awesome. Sherry?
Something that I loved that the Worcester Airport does, they actually every year will have an event where individuals on the autism spectrum or people that have anxiety about flying can go and explore the plane, meet pilots, feel comfortable sitting on the plane. They simulate what it would be like. They start the engine. They do all different things so that individuals might feel comfortable traveling someday. It's a great event, and I know that the Worcester Airport, it's something that they do every year.
And I just want to read the comment that Sherry left in the chat. She said she was fortunate to work in the school system with full inclusions. Not all cities and towns have that, but it is important for family and teachers to advocate for this. Every child should be included in some way, even if it's just for social activities. So thank you, Sherry. Diane?
Thank you, Nicole. I was actually going to mention what Sherry just mentioned. There are a lot of programs on sensory making sure that people are able to fly comfortably. I think there's a Wings for All program that the ARC runs, and there's also one through Autism Speaks, but similar probably to the event that Sherry talked about at the Worcester Airport. At many other airports, they have a day where they actually simulate going through TSA, going to the gate, boarding a plane, and all of that. There's some great programs out there. I'll put one in the chat.
Thank you. George?
Yeah, I just want to pick up on what Tom was referring to as the sensory room that that's happening in Foxborough, which on its face sounds pretty amazing. But what I get concerned about is just another sort of place to isolate and to segregate people with autism from the rest of the community, or the rest of the sort of the stadium. And so here's a place for people that have autism, and so they all gather together away from being sort of part of the whole, some sensory room. So I think that the idea is good, but how do you do that and ensure that it's not isolating or segregating from the larger sort of base of the community? So I caution things like that sound good on the surface, but unless the crafts and the people who run that stadium figure out a way that they can create an environment that's accommodating for people with autism without segregating them away from the rest of the attendance at or the crowd at Foxborough, then I'm not sure I'm 100% behind it.
Thank you, George. Anyone else? Gretchen?
I would actually come at that from a different angle, and I think more people might actually appreciate that. I know a lot of people don't want to go to things that aren't diagnosed with autism, that don't like the loudness, who would appreciate a quieter room but still want to be part of an event. So I think it might be more inclusive as long as the space is big enough where, people just like, I've had offices where we've had quiet zones and more discussion friendly zones, and doesn't mean that you have autism. It just means, you can concentrate better. You'll just enjoy it better if it's not so loud.
Thank you, Gretchen. Yeah, I can see both point of views though. So
definitely.
Yeah. Josh, you want to take us away?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that last question sort of expanded so much. I feel like we kind of covered what we have in our last question here. But I'll throw it out there. In your own life, what actions can you take to be more inclusive and understanding towards people with autism? And I think that I will start and say that educating myself is the best way that I can do that. So just being aware and watching things like the TED Talk that we just watched, where I can get a person the perspective of a person with autism, and just understand it better. Sindel?
I can't say the levels that they have. I think we all are used to someone who has autism but is able to communicate at least, or do some sign language, or have a communication board. However, there are other levels with profound autism, kids who can't do anything. They're totally dependent. And I think we don't see that as much because they are mainly in institutions. The parents don't take them out. So I think we should educate the community a lot about different type of autism, the levels of autism. And I think people don't really see that as much because, again, parents, they don't take them out because they know what's going to happen. You know what it can happen if they don't take the medication. So I think it's very important to educate of the levels of autism.
Nicole, I wanted to add also what Mr. George was saying about the isolation. And one thing I learned when started with Nonotuck. If and George will always bring that, if he can do it, anybody can do it. And so I think that when we have those places that has those unique areas of isolation, I think we do need to watch out on that. And I think we should all learn how to live with each other, and teaching skills of people that we serve, or if they need to have headphones going to a game, but still be at the same game I'm at the game. The music is still playing at the game, but maybe they need to have headphones instead of just putting them in a room. So again, I hear what Mr. George was saying about that isolation, and we sometimes we need to watch out on somebody, because sometimes it's easier for society to put us in an isolation box versus let's learn how to deal with this event all together at the same time.
Thank you, Rhonda. I actually like this discussion right here because I agree with you and George, and I could see that point of view, but I also agree with Gretchen because I know sometimes when I'm in public spaces, I will go to like the far corner to get away, and I'm like, okay, I just need a moment to decompress from this crowd, and then I will rejoin. So I'm curious to know a little bit more about this room that they have, sensory room. And is it kind of like just like a timeout, or are we putting them there for like the time? Is it limited, etc.? So this is a good debate here. George?
Yeah, I actually think that Gretchen was getting onto something there. And if there's the room that's sort of identified like that, and it's not identified as being the autistic room, but a room for anybody who needs that space, that for sort of for your corner, Nicole, and for Gretchen to get away. And as long as it's just sort of open to everybody, and again, it's not identified and sort of as something for those autistic people, then I think that's one of the steps that can be used. And then what it may be is that if that's the case, then even if one of us may not need that, we go to there to be there to stand beside people who may be autistic, and to sort of fill that room with a variety of people that may have or may not have autism. So yeah, I think that again, it's more about sort of the identification and the stigmatization around that particular room itself.
George, I do want to add on to that too, because am I invited in the room? Right? Are you invited in the room? Are we able to go in the room even if we are not with somebody with autism? So these are great points. Sherry?
I feel like the crafts could make it more inclusive by having several rooms in this place. Have a Velcro wall room, have a room that's a sensory room, have a room that, because not all people with autism like a quiet sensory, with a spectrum disorder, like a quiet sensory room either. Have one of those rooms where, you crash things. And that would include everyone, like anyone would like one of those things. So then it's a center where anyone could go to do something that is their style, that could make it inclusive to everyone. It's not just a sensory room. And if I wanted to go to the quiet sensory room, I'd know I'd have to be quiet in there. If I wanted to be in the loud room, I could be in the loud room. It should be for everyone. I agree with that.
Thank you, Sherry. And I will like to say that Diane did add the article in the chat, if anybody wanted to click on that to have it after the discussion. Josh?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on what everyone else was saying. And I think that I think about this a lot with my son because he's on an IEP and he's in public school. So I think about what can we do to make things accessible for everyone? Like what can we sort of normalize? So if you're talking about a football game, for example, are there things that we could eliminate from the experience that aren't going to, detract from the game and going to the game and stuff that would be would make it more accessible for everyone? An example would be, do we need the jet flyovers? Those are expensive, they're loud. like that might be an instance where you could sort of examine the game experience and make it change it so that you're not necessarily taking away a lot from it, but you're allowing a space that's accessible for everyone. I mean, for me personally, like I don't necessarily like loud noises, and I don't necessarily need to go to a football game to see jets fly over. So that's something that you could take away from the experience that would probably make it more comfortable for everyone.
Thank you, Josh. Michelle.
Thanks for sending the excuse me, the article, because the article actually is helpful because it's not signified as, you know, room for autism or something like that. It's like sensory inclusive stadium, and it's saying for any guest, all guests. So it sounds like it is being inclusive, which does sound like a good idea, because you know there are times when we all could use a little space. We want to be in a quiet area and stuff like that. So you know, like I said before, humanity. We're all human. We all sometimes need space to get away and have our own little quirks and stuff like that. But yeah, read the article. It sounds like it's going to be um, just an inclusive sensory room with different things for different folks, right? Different strokes for different folks. We're all different, and I think it's great. And hopefully from that, other places, because you know, Gillette and the Patriots, hopefully other people and other organizations and other activity places will see this and maybe join something like this where it is all inclusive.
You,
Thanks again.
Michelle. Does anyone else want to add anything before we kind of to wrap up? We do have a few more minutes. We would like for you to all just stick around for a moment. We do have some post-poll questions that we would like for folks to answer. But before we do that, does anyone have any final thoughts or comments that they would like to make? Okay. Thank you all for attending. Josh will now put up a couple of poll questions.
Seems like we should have music, like the Jeopardy. Do 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 do.
Rich and I love you. You're awesome.
You just provided the music, Gretchen. We don't need it.
Right? I'm happy to sing the love boat. I can do whatever you like.
How many questions are there? Just wondering.
I think it's just Josh, how many are you throwing up? Just one more? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Josh, do you have anything else that you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, thank you for everyone who shared. I think this was another really great discussion, and I'm grateful to have experienced it with all of you.
All right, thank you all, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. And thank you for joining. Take care.
You too. Thanks,
Thank you so
everybody. Have a
much.
good day.